You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Melissa Pilgrim is a travel advisor with years of experience, a platinum earmarked agency with over 20 years in the travel industry. Because all families are different and have different needs, Melissa offers personalized levels of services that are unique for every family.
When it comes to Disney trips, Melissa is the perfect agent for you to get the information you need. Check out our website at www.milesfrommaineST.com/sponsors for more information and to get a free quote. We thank Melissa Pilgrim for sponsoring Miles from Main Street.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's a wild ride in Vista.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we've got Brian and Mykhailo here for you, and we're going to talk a little bit of a top 10 on the most recent trip that we went on. It's going to be tips. It's going to be things that we enjoyed. It's new things that we did. We're having a good time talking about the most recent trip that we went on.
And it was a lot of fun. We sort of alluded to it last week on the show, but we got onto a little tangent there. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. It was not welcomed by the wives because they felt left out, but it was a fun one. Say, before we go too far, though, we'd love it if you guys would hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, share the show with some friends, and let them know that we are here on YouTube and that we can be found on any of the other podcast providers.
And we are bringing you new episodes on YouTube and anywhere else you guys have podcasts every Tuesday. New episodes every Tuesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. It'll really go a long way for us.
But now, Mykhailo, we're going to keep those Tuesday episodes coming out, but we're going to start recording these live on Thursday nights, aren't we?
What? I don't think we're ready. I don't think we're not ready. We can't do it.
We're not. Well, I think we should. I think we're ready.
It's going to happen whether or not we're ready.
Yeah. So I hope you guys will come and join us on Thursday nights at 7:00. We will be taking your comments as we record our episode. It'll be a lot of fun to have you guys join us.
Yes, it will. It'll be awesome. We hope a lot of our live stream friends come and hang out because it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. So, top 10 tips from our last Walt Disney World trip.
And I definitely, I don't so much have, I don't think all of mine are tips. It's more kind of like experiences that I had, and I've got a couple new things in there. So
I would agree. I think we've kind of reached a point where we want to share our experiences and hope that you guys find some value out of what we're giving you. So do you want to start, Mykhailo?
Yeah, sure. I have them written down here. So let me just look at my first one. Yes, that makes sense. So something new that we were able to do on this trip that we've never done before was an after-hours event. So basically, if you don't know what this is, it's Magic Kingdom. We were at Magic Kingdom for this one. They'll close at like the normal time, but then from like 9 to 1 a.m., the park is open to after-hours guests. And I don't know exactly how many tickets they typically sell for these events, but it's way less than parties. Like if you've ever been to a Halloween party or a Christmas party, it's way less than the attendance of that. We definitely felt like there were like not that many people, and we were able to walk right onto rides. Probably the coolest thing that we were able to do was they were playing Enchantment, and that's a fireworks show that for Kristen, my wife, and I, it's really special to us because when that fireworks show was happening was when I proposed. Um, so we were really excited to see that firework, just see it at all, and we were ready to like wait a while to watch the fireworks, and so we got into like the middle hub, and there was like nobody there, and I was just waiting for like the influx of people. Like I was just waiting for a ton of people to come. Eventually, we all started to sit down on the ground. And if you've ever waited for a fireworks show at Disney, you know that like that's kind of a no-no. They'll eventually come and tell you to for everybody to stand up because it's like a, I don't know if it's like a fire hazard or just kind of like a safety thing. And so I like Kristen and I sat down, and then eventually like everybody in our area sat down, and I'm like, okay, like it's getting close. Like we're like 5 minutes left. Are they going to come tell us to stand up? And they never did. We sat in the hub and just looked up at the fireworks while everything was happening. It was the first and probably only time I was able to just sit and watch Disney fireworks.
That's awesome.
Yes,
You never told me that.
I didn't.
No, like that is really cool.
Yeah, it was so great because typically when you're watching fireworks, it's like the end of the day and your feet hurt, your legs hurt,
Yes.
everything hurts, and so you're just kind of like standing there, and you typically have to stand there for a while if you want a good spot. So like you'll get there like half an hour to an hour early for the fireworks and stand in a spot. Um, Typically you don't get to sit down. Sometimes if you're in a certain area, like you can sit for a little while, but then they'll come tell you to stand up. So it's like you've been standing for an hour and then you got to stand another 20-25 minutes for the fireworks show. And it's like sometimes if it's like the end of your trip, it's agony. It's just like
It really, yeah,
terrible.
it can be.
But yeah, this was so cool that we were able to just sit and watch. And it was because there was nobody there. And so when it comes to like, was this worth it? Like 100%. Like I enjoyed it so much. Another perk that you get is, I mean, it's definitely a perk, but it wasn't very substantial. But they had food, and it was really just kind of like popcorn and like Mickey frozen treats. Um, and one interesting thing that we found was, so the way that this works is like it's boxed popcorn. Like obviously they made it before this and then like brought it. So like the first couple boxes that we had, we were like, like this is definitely stale popcorn. But like it was buttery and it was salty, and I just love popcorn anyways. And then they were also handing out sodas, so like we just drank Diet Coke the entire night, and that was great. But what they'll do is if they run out of popcorn at a station, they'll start making fresh popcorn somewhere. So like the last couple popcorns that we got were like freshly popped. And this
Nice.
was out in Tomorrowland. And so that's something that I found that was pretty interesting. Was like, and it's great because obviously Disney could easily say, oh, we're out of popcorn. Like, sorry, like all of the popcorn that we had for this is gone. Like they could easily just say that. But the fact that they were like, okay, just go start popping some. And they were just like handing those out. I feel like that was really great for Disney to be doing that. Because again, they could have easily just been like, fresh out, sorry. But they definitely went the extra mile for their attendees. So I thought that was really cool.
I would think that popcorn's cheap enough that if they end up having to throw a little bit away at the end of the night, it's not that big of a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I didn't know about you sitting there. And yeah, just to kind of add to that a little bit, when we have waited for Happily Ever After, we have gotten there an hour in advance. And we have sat for a while. But I want to say 15 to 20 minutes at the least, they come by and say, everybody stand up.
Yep.
And then you're like, dang it. And I just kind of wonder if they're trying to fit more people in there. But, we had a pretty good spot this time around, and we didn't get there early at all. I want to say it was probably 20 minutes early. maybe half an hour, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But we were off to the side of the castle a little bit, kind of under the Tinkerbell wire, but
Okay.
it was still a good view. So I'm not complaining, but
Yeah.
The after hours, I've always wanted to do something like that, and we chose not to pay for one of those because we were staying at the Polynesian, and we got the extended hours at night. So we did Epcot, and we also did Magic Kingdom, and we had an excellent time at Magic Kingdom. We were kind of done at Epcot. We had really done everything we wanted to at that point. So we hit Soarin'. That took a little longer than it may have taken, but that was the first thing we did right after the quote unquote fireworks. There were no fireworks that night because of the rain, but we then went over to Test Track and walked right onto that. So that was fun. Magic Kingdom, though, was so cool. There was nobody there, or at least, that park has got so much going on that people are spread out enough. I did get a virtual queue for Tron, and we went up to look at it, and it looked busy. Like, that's where everybody was, there and Mine Train. You could walk on to anything else that you wanted to. We walked on to Space Mountain. We walked on to, my wife went and walked on to Haunted Mansion. I walked on to Big Thunder at the end of the night twice in a row. Which was awesome. I love that ride, and we could have done probably a couple more if had we want. Oh, we went on the carousel. We had left my mother-in-law and Mia to do Small World, and we went over to do Space Mountain. And then when we came back to find them, we found them on the carousel. And when it stopped, they didn't get off, so we jumped on it quick and rode with them. I had never ridden the carousel before. This was my first time. It was fun. I was like, I've done carousels and merry-go-rounds, in my life, but never there. And like, that was really cool to do that. So, I don't know. I just enjoyed it, but it was so cool walking around that park, and there was no one there. Like, and I'm sure you had the exact same experience. No one around.
Well, and this is crazy. Brian had to. With the resort hours, you have to get a virtual queue for Tron.
Right.
With after hours, it's just open, and our idea was to hit up Mine Train and then Tron towards the end of the night, because like around midnight, like hopefully people don't have, I mean, you can, but like they don't have their like little kids out that late, because it's super late for little kids. And so we hit up Mine Train, and that wait wasn't terrible. I think it finally kind of turned into a line right around those barrels that you spin, and you see pictures.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it actually turned into a line. So it wasn't a terrible wait, but like we walked on to Tron. Like we walked through the queue, like the pre-show area. We just like walked through that. And the only time that turned into a line really was after the lockers. So like that was in like our minds were getting blown by that, because we just walked on to Tron. And that's the big difference, is that there is no virtual queue during after hours. It's just wide open. So yeah, and there were a lot of other things that we basically just like walked onto. I don't think anything had like too terrible of a wait that night. So we were pretty happy with that.
And when we walked past Tron and saw the line as long as it was, we were just like, nope. I mean, we could have spent the rest of the night there, or we could have gone and done what we did, hit a whole bunch of rides to end the night. So I was really glad that we did that. And Pirates was finally open when we went by at the end of the night.
Nice.
Yeah. So, one of the things I wanted to hit was just kind of doing the parks with a larger group. we had 7 of us going through a lot of this, and the biggest frustration for me was when I would make a decision and someone would say, okay, I have to go to the bathroom. And it never failed. Like, my daughter was in that bathroom all the time. At one point, my wife said, I don't want to even think about the amount of time we have spent waiting for someone in the bathroom. And I think the only tip you can really pull from that is that if somebody says bathroom, everyone needs to go to the bathroom. I don't care if you just went, everyone needs to go and get it out of the way. And, you know, it is what it is. It was part of the handling of the group that I didn't do very well. And when it's my family, like, I take it really seriously. Like, I want to be able to get everything done, get through it. I don't want them to feel the crowds very much. And maybe that's more something I need to get over, but, you know, there were frustrating points at times. But all in all, it went well. A group of 7 is not, you know, something like a group of 20. I've seen plenty of groups like that going through the park. But, you know, it was interesting having the 7 of us going through the park and just trying to figure out what we were going to do next. And how to keep everyone moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, oh, squirrel, you know. So
Yeah, and it's funny. Both of these times that we've gone with Brian and Tammy, the first time it was kind of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work with these 2 different groups of like doing Disney differently. But it's like I feel like as soon as our 2 couples get together, we kind of understand priorities, and we also understand how to manage other people's priorities, where it's like, oh, like we need to go back to the hotel room to do this, like to change. And it's like, okay, like we'll do that then, and then we'll hit this and we'll do this. And so I was worried when we were traveling with them that like we were going to like get in each other's ways. But like when it was just the 4 of us, like I feel like we gelled really well, and we like did the things that we wanted to do, and like didn't really anger anybody with like, oh, I wanted to do this or I wanted to do this, like because we just like we get the parks, and we get how to kind of like navigate ourselves in that. And I feel like that happened again with your family, even though like it was like a bigger family. We had young people, we had old people, and like just I was really happy with like how understanding everybody was with like what we needed to do and what we wanted to get done, and like kind of like the limitations of like the things that we were doing. Like I know myself, I would never be like, oh, like I want to do this, like I don't care that other people can't do it or anything like that. And Kristen and I had told each other, we were like if it gets too slow, like then we're just gonna bail and like go to start doing our own things. And we never did, at least that I can think of. Like
no, you didn't.
We never really got to that point. So it's like we were doing enough, and like the pace was decent enough that like we were totally okay with it. So yeah, that it was interesting, and I think that just kind of like attributes to the fact that like you've got 4 Disney adults that understand how to do this stuff in the group. So at any one time, because there were certain times where Brian, you were trying to like rack your brain about like what do we do, and then like Kristen would be like, we should go here, and you'd be like,
yeah,
okay, yeah. And so it was like we were all kind of like pitching in on stuff.
And there were times that I'd be like, Mykhailo, is this the best way to be going? Like there, because like
yeah,
I don't know, forget where I am or something, but yeah, it was nice having you guys along, and I knew in the back of my head that you had already told me that you would bail if it was, you know, not going the way you wanted, or if you wanted to get away a little bit. But you know, the biggest thing, and I think I said this last week, is that, you know, you guys just kind of hung out and you didn't really say much, and you did what we were doing and had a great time with us, and it was great having you with me, and you know, I could bounce things off of you along the way, and that was really awesome to have you there. So I'll segue into my second one now.
Okay.
I'm gonna go out of order with you, but part of this group was that my mother-in-law was in a wheelchair, and we had talked about whether to get a scooter or wheelchair for her. She can walk, just not long distances, so it was better for her to be in something. And comfort-wise, she felt the wheelchair was the best. And we were a little bit worried about having to push it, being more tired at the end of the day, that kind of thing. And actually, it went really well. I have always looked at people that have been pushing a wheelchair and wondered how they're doing it. But when I had to finally do it myself, there have been times that I was like, I wish somebody had to push a stroller or a wheelchair, and more so a wheelchair than a stroller, but a wheelchair through the park before they're allowed to go into the park. Because the amount of people that cut you off, stop in front of you, don't care that you're there. Like, it was just, I think for Sue, mostly it was just having to look at people's butts all day long. But, like trying to push it and then people stopping short and you having to, hit the brake quick, and she's flying forward in her seat because she's not ready for it or something. It was just kind of things like that, and people not caring that you're there or wanting, stop the people that stop in the middle of a walkway and you can't get through and they don't care, and it's just, those were the frustrating things. So the other side of it though was that there are rides that wheelchair can't get through in the queue. So like we walked up to Star Tours and they said, you're not gonna be able to fit through here. We'll give you a return time. Well, it was a 10-minute, 20-minute wait or half an hour. Actually, it was a half-hour wait. They gave us a time 20 minutes later. So we were able to go and do something and come back. And that happened at Jungle Cruise too, where they gave us a return time and we came back. If I were to go back with my mother-in-law or anyone in a wheelchair, I would do a little bit more research and find out which rides do that so that I could have that as part of the plan. I don't need DAS. We didn't need DAS. She can sit in line, no problem, But if I can, know which ones are going to be giving me that return time, I can plan for that a little better. Because case in point, we went to Big Thunder, scanned a lightning lane that we had been given when we got evac'd from Pirates, and they took us around to the exit. And had we just gone up to the standby, they would have given us a return time. So I think, in the future, that's one thing that I would be doing with the wheelchair being part of the group. So it doesn't happen at a lot of rides, but it's nice to know when it's going to be something that comes up.
And one of the cool things that I saw was even when, so I think it was Frozen that we just walked through that queue, because it's not that difficult of a queue,
right?
But and this happens with a lot of rides, that the loading is like right next to the unloading. They basically just like took her out of her wheelchair right there and then wheeled the wheelchair right over to the exit. So a lot of times, like, and even when the loading isn't next to the unloading, there were a couple of times where I thought in my head, I was like, how are they going to get, like, do we need to put the wheelchair somewhere for her? And Disney would just, like, a cast member would just come in and just grab it and just pull it over to the exit. So without fail, that wheelchair was always waiting for her at the exit. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, it was it's almost kind of like a hack. Like, we need to put somebody in a wheelchair every time we go. Because and that's the thing, is that we never really knew how the ride was going to react to somebody walking up in a wheelchair. So every so often we were just kind of like and they would just look at us like, no, just go through the queue. And then every so often they'd be like, oh, okay, we're gonna go ahead and take you over here, and we were like, yay. but it never it was never too skip the liney, at least like how I felt, like where like they would just like bring you up to the front like right away and like, here, get on the ride.
I
'Cause
think we saw that at Grand Fiesta, through
Yeah.
Caballeros. They just like it was only a 15-minute wait, but they took us right to the front of the line right away, and it was
Mhm.
like, like, I feel bad doing this, but thanks.
Well, and I was thinking of like Big Thunder, where it's like they took us to the exit, but like it took us a while to like get integrated into, because it was like right there, like we were right at the exit, and all we really needed to do was walk right in, but we stood in that area for a little while, so it's not like you're skipping the entire, I mean, you are skipping the entire line, but it's not like you're skipping the entire wait. Like there is still like in
Right.
certain rides like an element of wait, like sit there and
Right.
wait. Which
Yeah.
like it was still cool because I'd never gone back there to play with the stuff. And like there was that like TNT like activator thing that
Oh,
was pretty
right. Where
cool.
we were waiting in line for Big
Yeah.
Thunder. Yeah. And it took us a minute to figure out how it worked.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it was something that I was concerned about. But for the most part, I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
Taking it back, because it works so well. They are so accommodating. Every time we got on the monorail, they asked, "Where are you going?" And they had a ramp waiting for us to get off of the monorail when we got there. And it was, it was just really easy. The buses, she would normally walk herself on, which was a little bit quicker because then I could just fold it up and sit wherever I could, instead of having to make everybody wait to, load her on in the wheelchair, lock down the wheelchair, all that stuff. It was a little bit nicer to just jump on and not have that issue.
Those are always the worst too, because like sometimes you'll walk up, especially staying at um the like the All Stars and stuff like that, where like there's a ton of people. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you'll walk up to your bus stop and there's like 4 ECVs in line, and you're like, we're not making this bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And they've even got new buses that we were on one of them actually, that they've made the whole bottom, because like there's 2 floors to a bus.
Mhm.
That whole bottom floor is all able to have ECVs in it now. All of those seats
all
fold
the
up.
seats fold up.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense because oftentimes, so the way that works too is there's really only 2 spots on traditional buses for ECVs. So you got to wait for that first bus to get the 2 people on. And then if you don't make that bus, then you've got to wait for the second bus to get these ECVs on. So that would make a lot of sense if like you've got a ton of ECVs in line and just like knock them out like right away, so that the other buses coming out are more efficient. And it's like, I mean, Kristen and I huff and puff all the time about like ECVs, but it's like we get it. Like we understand
Right.
like Disney's for everybody. Like we want to, like, it's inclusive. We want everybody to enjoy what they're doing. It's just tough, especially at the end of the day when you're like, oh my God, there's so many people. I just want to get on this bus.
And and we didn't see that as much staying at the Polynesian, because there's just not as many people waiting.
Mhm.
I can remember nights waiting for Art of Animation buses and Pop Century buses, and the line's just a mile long.
Yep.
And you just sit there and sit there and sit there.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell everyone after fireworks, go find something to do.
Yeah.
You're just going to stand in line for a bus anyway. Go find something to do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that segues really well into my next, the next thing that I want to talk about, which is, you. It's funny. The next one on my list is you guys staying at the Polynesian, because it almost felt like we were staying at the Polynesian, which like it really makes me want to stay deluxe more, because in my mind I used to be like we're gonna spend every second that we can like at the parks, and then at the end of the night just go back to whatever hotel, motel, Holiday Inn that we're staying at, and it's just a bed.
Mm-hmm.
But like we would get done with park stuff and then go to the Polynesian and do more things. Whereas like if you get back to All Stars, it's like, yeah, you can like order a pizza, you can eat some food in that area, go outside. Maybe there's a pool, like maybe there's other things going on, but it's like you go to the Polynesian and it's like, oh, let's go drink at Trader Sam's. Like that's something that that's like an event that we would go do, and we were able to just like do it like when we went, because it's at the Polynesian, it's where you're going. And I mean, we had so much fun. We got to swim with you guys, which like it was definitely one of those like we're forcing the swim to happen because it was like
It was cold.
it was chilly out.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of Wisconsinites swimming because we can.
Yep. Well, and it was rainy on Saturday, and there were kids out in the pool the Saturday before we left, and I'm like, no, because it was only like 65 degrees. It's like, nah.
Yeah.
But I had been there all week already, so
Yeah, but I mean, like, and I don't know if we talked about that. We probably did, but you guys, your room location was really cool. Like, just where you guys were.
Yeah.
And so it's just like standing in the your patio area and just like looking out to everything was so cool. Like I was like and we didn't even really do that all that often. We just kind of like came and looked at it.
Right. But yeah, it was nice sitting there. I would go and have breakfast out there on days that we weren't in the parks, and I tried to sit out there as much as possible because you're looking right at Lava Pool, you're looking right at Ohana and the comings and goings from the Great Ceremonial House. It was just an awesome spot to be in, and I was so grateful to be there. Tammy and I were talking this week, like, I don't know that we'd stay there again. We loved it. We had a great time. It was a dream stay for us. But we're not sure if we liked it enough. Like it was really cool. We had a great spot, great place. We loved watching the fireworks as much as we did. I just don't know if we'd do it again.
And so what were the things you didn't like about it? Like what is the reasoning that you wouldn't stay there again?
The one thing we kept talking about was the smell of propane from those torches they have lit everywhere.
The tiki torches, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think part of it is the busyness of the Polynesian. There's just so much going on. Like the Saturday before we left, you guys had already gone home, but we had come back to the lobby and it was raining. But we had come back to the lobby and you could definitely notice that there were more people there. Like you couldn't find a spot to sit in the lobby. You couldn't move without somebody moving with you or having to adjust for that person or whatever. But it was back to the Trader Sam's though, like it was so nice that we could just go there. Like that Tuesday you guys were at Epcot, we sat by the pool all afternoon. It was really nice to do that. We had a waiter coming over to us, serving us drinks and getting snacks. And, as I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, if we're going to get the girls into Trader Sam's, I should go over, knowing that the wait's about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Nailed it. Went over at 4:00, put our name in. 6:00, they call us over. It was perfect. And we had a great time. Like that's not something I can do from anywhere else. But, when we stayed at Contemporary, the view we had from our room was of Bay Lake. No, we didn't get to watch fireworks from there, but we could sit there and look out at the lake in the morning eating our breakfast. We could sit there and watch the electric water pageant at the end of the night. we could walk right out to the pool that wasn't too far away, and we had a really great time at that pool. I think though that when you stay deluxe, the biggest point I can give you is take time to spend time at the pool, to do the activities they have available. The girls painted these pineapples. That was the craft that day. They loved it. And, just take time to have time at your resort. You're spending all that money to stay at that resort. Stay at the resort. You don't need to be in the parks every day. Disney wants to sell you a park day for every day you're there, when you check in, when you check out. You don't need all that. We did 4 park days. That's all I paid for. And we took a day off every other day. And it was great being able to sit there and enjoy that. I think I liked it. The days off may have been a little bit nicer at Contemporary. I'll let you know, though, when we stay at the next deluxe resort, which I don't know where that's going to be, when it's going to be, but
Definitely Grand Floridian. That's what I think you guys are going to do.
yeah. No, I don't think that one's on our list. Wilderness, Beach Club, I think those are the first couple. So,
Yeah, and so for me, I mean, I definitely want to stay at all 3 of those resorts. And there's just something about the Polynesian that we always kind of end up hanging out there or going there for something or trying to do something there. That like I think that's kind of like at the top of our list, is like trying to stay poly. I think if we're able to at some point, we want to buy in DVC at the poly. That would be wonderful if we could do that. But we don't know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on the bucket list. I'm doing my first deluxe stay, Brian. You should be proud of me. With staying at Beach Club in May. So that's going to be really exciting. I don't think I've announced that at all on the podcast yet. But for any of you pop punk fans, we're basically going to Disney and Epcot in May to see Simple Plan, because I very much enjoy that band and I grew up on them. But we're also staying at Beach Club because it's like right there, and it just makes a lot of sense. And the deal was really great. We're not paying all that much for those rooms. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah,
But
you get that 35% off for
Yep.
AP holders, so that's awesome.
So that's going to be our first deluxe stay, and that's also another area that we end up frequenting often, even like when we're not going to Epcot. Like sometimes we'll just like go there at night to like go check stuff out. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, we do that a lot, where we end up just like going and hanging out at deluxe resorts. Another one that I would want to do is Wilderness. I think Wilderness is really cool, but we'll see.
Yeah, and hanging out at other resorts, we were there over Mardi Gras, so we did go and watch the Mardi Gras parade Tuesday morning. While we were there, that was so cool. And if you don't know what this is at Port Orleans French Quarter, and they hold a Mardi Gras party all day long, really. They start in the morning with beignets, and they have some temporary bars set up selling hurricanes and king cakes and some other goodies at these bars. So the wife went and got a hurricane and brought it back. And then this parade is created on golf carts by the cast members of the resort, a French Quarter resort. And they start over in Riverside, and they come all the way down that running path that connects the 2 resorts. And they come in along the river, and they kind of loop back around to where the main courtyard is for French Quarter, and park them there. So we were out on the river and we watched them come by. So much fun. Everyone's yelling happy Mardi Gras, and we were really up close. Like, it's really tight where we were standing for it. And so they're coming in, and we're face to face with these people, just happy Mardi Gras, this is so great, you guys did a wonderful job type of stuff. And everyone was just so happy. It was so exciting to be in that crowd and seeing that. um I got to meet a family next to us that she was on her celebration trip after finishing. um I'm going to get this wrong, but she is a firefighter now. She went through whatever the basic training is for that. And she's a small little girl that kicked everyone's butt and was top of her class. And I am so sorry if you're listening, and I'm forgetting your name now. But just a shout out that we're proud of you too, and we really appreciate what you're doing, and that you're making that sacrifice for all of us and protecting us. So thank you for that. It was great meeting your mom and you. And so yeah, back to the parade though. It was so cool being able to see that come by. And then after the parade, they have them all parked, and you can take a close-up look at all of them. They even had one that was built like a Woody, the old surf cars that you'd see in like the California or whatever. But they had a paper mache Stitch in the back seat, like a parade person waving, and the head is turning the whole time, and it looks so cool. But it was all the different parades that you would see in Magic Kingdom was the theme. So every entry, whether it was from housekeeping or the food staff or hospitality, whatever it might be, they each had their own entry into the parade. And then they had QR codes that you could scan. They were coming through the parade with these big signs with the QR code, and you could go in and vote for your favorite float. So I don't know who ended up winning. I think they ended up announcing that later at the block party they had at the end of the day. I did not go to that. I did see Louis the alligator was there meeting people, so I think that would have been fun to do. But yeah, it was an all-day affair. I had to get in line for beignets after that parade, and it was probably a good 20 minutes at least. But they moved fast. They got those things out so quick, and they were fresh and hot. Like you had to wait for them to cool down a little bit. But yeah, Mardi Gras at Disney was really cool, a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend getting over and seeing that parade.
Yeah, that looked a lot of fun. And I think that morning was the morning after our after hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was.
So we were toast. Like we were not able to wake up early enough to make that happen, which like looking at what it was, I feel like would have been nice, but just everything that we did
Yeah.
that night, like I don't think we got back to the room until 2ish, like a little after 2. But yeah, it looked really cool. Like everything they had going on, that whole parade looked really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. They even had some merchandise that you could buy, with Mardi Gras 2024 on it. So we were able to get the pin. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And that kind of like brings me to my next one, which was, and I mentioned this a little bit on the last episode, but we stayed at a motel. And this is the second time we've stayed at a motel during this. And it was good enough. is probably the best way to put it. Like surprisingly good enough. We every time we typically look for like the cheapest option because we're staying off property and we're going to try to spend as much time as possible on property before we go back to this motel. So we look for the cheapest price, and we're always kind of like what are we going to get? But the past two honestly have been good enough for like what we want to do. And I've always kind of had this thought in the back of my head that's like, if we get a really bad one, like maybe we never stay off property again. But so far they've been pretty decent, to the point where I am like, honestly, if we want to do a quick trip, like, these motels and renting a car is great. And I'll go do a little bit of a tangent on renting a car because it's just a crazy story. We have rented a car once before, so we kind of know how it works. So we get to this car rental place, and there's a decent line, so we had to wait probably, I want to say, 45 minutes to an hour to like get up to the front. And this whole time I'm just like listening to these people talk to the representatives. At one point, Kristen like went out to go to her makeup because we were going straight to parks after getting the car. And so I'm sitting here listening to some of these people, and what they'll do is they'll try to like sell you all these extras. So it's like, if you don't do the insurance, then like you have to buy insurance to them. If you want to go through tolls, you have to buy like the toll package and everything. And I was listening to these people just complete like, at one point I heard somebody say, um, all I had left to pay was $40. How come it's $400 now? And then, like, they were just like, "Oh, it's the insurance, it's all the tolls that
Oh
you're paying
gosh.
for and everything." And I'm just like, if we get up there and they're trying to charge us more than like what we're expecting to pay, then like Kristen's gonna have a meltdown. Um, and we get up there and it's just like happens right away. Like we told them no, we're using our own insurance, and they were like, okay. And we had already set it up through like their QR code, so like everything was like they had everything that they needed. And we said no to all the tolls because we know how to get to Disney without tolls. We said no to everything, and we didn't pay anything extra. And it's just,
Nice.
how do people how were these people getting up to the front expecting to pay $40, and they were charging them for, and then people would just be like, okay, and just like do it and then leave. And it's like, how do you start your vacation like that? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But yeah, we I was afraid of that, and that was like totally fine, other than having to wait an hour to get up to the front. But
Yeah.
like that was as smooth as it could be possibly. So yeah, like with all of that said, like we would definitely do a vacation like that again, where it's just like something quick, just staying at a motel. However, we definitely do want to stay at these nice deluxe resorts. So
Yeah, I mean that's the give and take, right? What kind of a stay are you wanting to have? Like if you're just gonna be running into parks, I totally agree. Like you guys weren't at your hotel much. You hadn't even checked in when we saw you that Saturday when
Nope.
we first got in. Like you were like, oh, we got to get going. We got to be there by midnight or
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, if you're going to spend the money, take the time to stay there as well. So, my next thing is going to be touring plans. I have come on this show numerous times and professed about how great touring plans is. After this trip, I'm changing my tune, and I got to let you know why. I got into a few lines. We were looking at, when we were in Magic Kingdom, we were looking at going and doing the Mickey Mouse meet up front, and they were telling me it was less than 20 minutes on touring plans. The wait time was showing, I think, 40 or 45 minutes, and we got up there, and Disney hadn't changed their wait time at all. So I'm like, yeah, it's going to be quick. And we got in there and it didn't look like it was going to be quick, but we got in the line because the plan was this should take us through and we'll get out just in time to walk out to town square and watch the parade go by. Well, as we're standing there waiting and waiting and waiting, we hit the 45-minute mark and we're not anywhere near getting in there. So we ended up bailing and we went out and we found our spot for the parade. The rest of the day went great. I quit using touring plans at that point, pretty much. Fast forward to about, I don't know, 6:30, somewhere in that range. You guys had left at that point. You had to go home. And I look at the wait time for Buzz Lightyear, and it's 45 minutes. And I said, we could get in line for Buzz Lightyear. That'll get us out to the fireworks in a good amount of time to watch the show. We should be out there about 7:00, get a good spot. And so we get in the line. Again, Disney said 45 minutes. I pull up touring plans. They're telling me less than 30. We get in this line, and we're in the line for over an hour. And I'm getting mad at this point. I'm on the touring plans forum, the chat, and there's some other people starting to complain about times. And I'm like, okay, this isn't good. But we saw it through. We rode Buzz Lightyear. We got done, and the family went out. What happened, though, is that this is one that Mia had really been looking forward to all day. And she gets on there, and the gun doesn't work. So we come off of the ride, and I said, I really hate to do this, but we waited a really long time, and her gun didn't work. And he said, oh, it didn't work? Here, just go right down here. We'll get you right back on it, and no problem. I'm like, that's perfect. Okay, so she and I stayed on the ride, rode it one more time, and they went off. So just to finish that piece, like I said, it was probably 20 minutes before that the family got over there. Maybe I'm getting the timing a little bit off. But they had a decent spot, kind of the right of the castle. So had a bad experience. Mickey had a bad experience with Buzz Lightyear. Tried it again on Friday with Mickey, but I didn't lean into it like I normally would. I said, Disney's telling me it's 45. I'm going to go with that, and we'll see where we end up. It ended up being roughly 45, a little bit longer because there was a shift change just as we got to the front of the line. And when it was supposed to be our turn to go, they let a lightning lane in. So it got a little bit longer, but that's whatever. But I think touring plans had told me 20 to 25 minutes, and I didn't believe them. And so then, go back to last year, we were at Disneyland, and Disneyland, I think, is a little bit different of an animal because they have the rides go down so much, and they don't account for that. When a ride goes down, they don't change their times because you could physically see the people moving to the different spots. You could just see lines getting longer when something would shut down. And so I actually contacted them after our day at Hollywood Studios and said, I'm not happy. This is terrible. And I got a refund for my subscription. So, they said they'll look at the data. I gave them the feedback that my wait times were a lot longer than it had in the past. I used them in 2019. It was great. They hit everything perfect. But I don't know what's going on right now. I know that there's been some changes with how Disney is handling things, and maybe touring plans is trying to catch up. I don't know. But right now, I don't trust them. So I just wanted to put that part out there.
Yeah, and Brian, you and I had talked about this a little bit, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm kind of wondering if less people are using the app, so they have less real data and more kind of like guesstimate data, where this is what we think it's going to be, and then based on that, these are the wait times. And so I wonder if that's happening, and then also I'm wondering if Disney seemed pretty busy while we were there. This was another thing I wanted to talk about, so I'm going to talk about it now. There was a cheerleading competition that we didn't know about, but I am circling the date when for next year, because never again. I think I texted Brian at one point and I was like, never again.
Yeah. That weekend was that first weekend we were there, which was the weekend before President's Day. Mm-hmm. Or that whole weekend. But yeah, anyway, it was crazy with where all these cheerleaders were going, and even our Friday that we left, right before we left the Hollywood Studios, there was this big old band that came in. They brought them in like 15 minutes before open, and I saw them around here and there, but not as bad as the cheerleaders.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm also wondering if when it gets really busy, then their data is skewed because then there's even less people using the app and giving real data, and there's more people around, kind of like clogging everything up. So I mean, yeah, I don't know about touring plans anymore. I rarely used it. I think I used it um on Kristen and mine first trip because Brian, you had it at one point, and so we just kind of used your subscription. And there were a couple times where we looked at it and we were like, oh, okay, like I think they're right on this one. Um, but I mean, I was never really using it all that much. If anything, I'd use it as like this is what Disney is saying, this is what touring plans are saying, and then kind of like make our decision through that. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it was. I mean, I was never too big on touring plans, but you were, and it's kind of sad that you'd had a bad experience with them. But yeah,
Well, and I just wanted, I mean, I've professed their greatness for so long that I wanted to let you know I'm changing my tune, and
yeah,
hopefully things will change. But for right now, and I know that a lot of people have crowd calendars out there and they would have one as well. And I have had success using their stuff, and all the crowd calendars couldn't even agree on what the crowds were going to be like while we were there. So that could be playing, part of it. I don't know. It was a disappointment to me, but I'm also used to not having to use it all that much. So, we were able to still make good decisions and have a good time. And, watching live streams has shown me like to gauge the line, not just take Disney's word for it.
yeah.
So, like the riding Peter Pan with you guys in December, like
Kristen is the Peter Pan Q whisperer, and it's funny. All she does is look and see that it's not outside, and she's like, "It's not an hour. We got to go on it." And it's like, she's probably right. But I
Yeah.
also don't want to get stuck waiting an hour.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That lightning lane, like,
It'll get you.
I hope they find another tweak that helps it, because it can really get you, like you said, like,
Yeah.
you can get stuck in a line because there's so many other people coming through lightning lane. So you kind of hit up one of yours in there, right?
Yes.
I had one more. Did you have any more?
Yeah, I have one more, and it's just Luminous. We really enjoyed Luminous.
Oh yeah.
And it was interesting because it was, and I was going to mention this before, it was pretty busy when we went. But there were certain times where we could really feel the crowds, and then certain times where we were like, where are the crowds? And watching Luminous, the night that we watched it was one of those, because somehow we got to watch it like right up front, like right in between, like the two shops that are like at the front. Like, is that International Gateway? Is that what it's called?
No, that's International Gateway is the back entrance.
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I can't remember what they call that. I always forget. But it's kind of the old Future World and
Yeah.
Whatever they call the
The
World Showcase.
the beginning of World Showcase. And so we just like walked in there. Like we just walked in, and we didn't have to wait terribly long. We just kind of walked in there, chilled, and Luminous started. And we had a decent spot, but also being a lighting designer and enjoying light, they had a lot of fixtures that they were using. And
Yeah.
so I enjoyed that a lot. And we got the fireworks right away. Brian's idea of Luminous is a little skewed because they didn't get fireworks, and I could definitely see
No.
how no fireworks would make that show not what it could be. But yeah, we enjoyed it. I mean, I just love Epcot fireworks. I loved Illuminations. Back in the day, I loved Harmonious. That was such a good show. I don't understand why they took it away. I would still say Harmonious is better than Luminous. Just with everything that they were doing, it was just insane. Um, but yeah, I feel like Luminous is good, and I do enjoy it, and it's a cool story, because it's actually it's like a story based fireworks show. Not really like a story, but just kind of takes you through like growing up. Um, and the only thing I would say is like if they come out with a new one, they really got to hit it out of the park. They've got a whole lagoon there, and the only thing I would it's weird because they could they could just put in World of Color. Like that would be cool. But when I think about that, Disney made that lagoon in California Adventure. So it's nice and shallow for them. I'm not sure how deep the lagoon is in Epcot now, but that would be very cool if they, because they try to do that type of technology kind of everywhere. Like it's in Fantasmic. It's kind of like lining the stage with those jets and everything, and then they do like the water projections and in at World of Color, which is cool. But it's not done anywhere near the same way that they do World of Color out in California. And I feel like they just have to do that somewhere. Like they have to try to incorporate that because it's such a cool show. Anyways, there's my little tangent. But Luminous, we are fans. Like we enjoyed Luminous. And it was a very cool way to end the night. And Brian, you just gotta experience it with fireworks. We only saw it once. And when Ron was doing all of his different viewpoints, we weren't paying all that much attention, but we got probably the best view, and we really liked it. So I'll be interested to see what it's like viewing it from like different areas. So
Yeah, we had a beautiful day at Epcot all day long. Weather was really good, and I didn't even think about it as we came up on Luminous starting, and they said change show or modified show. I can't remember the words they used. And I'm like, come on, we're not going to get fireworks, are we? And we didn't. And it was all just water jets and lights. And then, I can't give it a good review because it started raining in the middle of the show. So we had to get all our ponchos out. And, there was the distraction of that. And, it's just, it needs another shot. I just did watch a video on YouTube of it last night, trying to give it another chance. I got bored in the middle. I just kept thinking like Harmonious was so much better. The music was so much better.
yes.
Yeah. And I wish they would have just, I don't know, maybe taken Harmonious, got rid of the big screens, and found another way to present it. But this is what we've got, and I think it's going to be staying for a while because they've pumped a lot of money into a show now twice, and I don't think they're going to be too quick to go for something else. So, and like I said, I need to give it another shot. So, we did get to see Fantasmic. That one stopped in the middle for some reason. For roughly 5 minutes, they paused the show, turned the lights on. I saw a bunch of people come walking in. I don't know if they were waiting to hopefully see it or just showed up at the right time, or if that's the reason for the pause. I don't know. But then they started the show up, and we got to finish it, which was nice. But I wanted to talk about using Genie Plus, and we used it only at Hollywood Studios, and we had early entry that morning, and we got to the park at 7:50. We pretty much grabbed the first bus out of the Polynesian, and so it was 7:50 when we got in line, and it was already nuts there. Every gate was 10 deep at the least. And so we got in line and we took off when they opened right at 8:30. We took off for, or actually it was 8:30 that it opened. Sorry. We took off for Star Wars, Rise of the Resistance, and got in the line and pretty much walked right onto that. I don't remember really slowing down too much. Had a great time. We actually got off of that a couple of minutes before 9:00, so we were able to get in line over at Millennium Falcon before everyone was coming in, and so we got those two things done. In the meantime, I had paid, like I said, I paid for Genie Plus, got the first one, Slinky Dog, at 7 a.m. And it was, I think, a 5 o'clock time, somewhere in there. I ended up pushing that back to 7:50. And then I had set the alarms, right? Like every 2 hours is when you got to start, or when you can book again. And that's how it worked. Every time that I booked a lightning lane, it was more than 2 hours out. So I was stacking at that point. And we got all the Star Wars done in the morning. By 10 o'clock. We were done. Did some shopping. Got to finally go through that marketplace. Had breakfast at Ronto's Roasters. Did not spend a whole lot of time over by Kylo Ren's area in the First Order section. We kind of moved out and went to Muppets, and I went up front and got a locker and threw some stuff in the locker while the family watched Muppets, which was fine with me. I had a nice leisurely stroll back to get back there, grab myself a Mickey Premium bar, and enjoyed that for a second breakfast, I guess, which was fine. I love the Muppets show, but I was okay with missing it. All of this to tell you that I stacked during the day. I was able to stack 4 rides. So at around 3 o'clock, we started with Mickey and Minnie's. We did Tower of Terror, as Molly has coined the phrase fiddle faddle. I fiddle faddled to get Tower of Terror. I originally had a Alien Swirling Saucers and was able to modify it to Tower of Terror. That really worked out well because they were out for a long time. That's a decent upgrade too. Yeah. Because it was out when I went to do that 4th one. It was gone, and we were able to get it. So I was really happy with that. I'm forgetting one. Tower of Terror, Mickey and Minnie's, Slinky Dog. Oh, Toy Story Mania. We were able to grab that one as well. So, it was great. We were able to just go lightning lane those and get them all done. We had time in the middle of all of it for dinner. But by doing that and having all the rides at the end of the day and getting Star Wars done in the morning, that left us time to go meet Mickey and Minnie, to go watch the Frozen sing-along, which was awesome. I got yelled at for screaming puddle. The lady on stage started yelling at me like, "You can't do that. I'm keeping my eye on you." It was great. We went and watched Indiana Jones. We met Max Goof. We had a drink at the Tune-In Lounge. Like all of these things that I typically would be running around trying to make sure we're getting all of the things in and waiting in long lines. That worked out terrific. Now, I don't think you need to buy Genie Plus. It's just how you want to enjoy your day. And we were much more relaxed at Hollywood Studios than I think we were the other days, other than Epcot, because we had planned to eat all day long, basically. So we had a very leisurely day at Epcot, but it worked out really well. Stacking was really easy. Knowing how that app works, I think, made it a little easier. But it was worth it, and I would do it again. The value proposition kind of changes within, how many people you have, how much money you want to spend, all of that stuff. But, I did like using it. And the last thing I'll just say about Genie Plus and how your day goes is that, when I was looking at touring plans, it was basically telling me from noon to 3, don't bother. you know I think Disney, the Genie app, may have said some of the same thing, and that was kind of my experience too. Like, everything just said, don't bother right now, go find something else to do than get on a ride. So we've talked about that midday break and going and taking a nap at your resort, or we've often said find a table service restaurant that you can just sit for an hour and a half and relax, right? When it's busier, that noon to 3 time period, I think that's exactly what you should be doing, is just finding time to relax, whether it's in the park or out, whether it's eating or sitting on hub grass, whatever it might be. Take that time to enjoy the time with your family. Save the running around for the morning and the evening when it's not quite as crazy, when the wait times do start dropping. Do it then. But spend the time that you have talking about what you did in the morning, what you're going to do during that noon to 3 time. Find a train ride, find something that you just relax and not worry about the crowds. That was the feeling I got out of this trip.
That's awesome. And that's typically kind of what Kristen and I try to do, but it never ends up that way. We always end up just kind of like running from thing to thing, even when we have Genie Plus. But it's good to hear that you had um, a really great experience with Genie Plus, because I mean, the way we've used Genie Plus before was like being able to ride rides multiple times. Like, not that you can actually do that with Genie Plus, but it's like you ride it once in the regular queue and then you see that there's Genie Plus for it.
Yeah.
So we love Genie Plus. We just can't. We've realized now that we can't just buy Genie Plus for every day that we have. I think the past 2 trips we actually haven't gotten Genie Plus. And it's just because, I mean, the trips are kind of evolving for us now of like what we do. So we're trying to eat around the world more. We're trying to experience different things. But yeah, we have always had really great success with Genie Plus. And so we will be singing Genie Plus's praises for a while. So,
And people complain that they're on their phones all the time. And I brought chargers with me, portable chargers, to be able to plug in during the day, expecting to need it. I wasn't on my phone at all. Like, I was taking videos, I was taking pictures, I was getting on Genie Plus. I never needed those portable chargers, though. I wasn't on my phone like people talk about.
yep.
In fact, it said I was on my phone less, like 2.5 hours less that week than I had been the week before. Now, maybe that's something to say about how much I'm on my phone. I don't know, but like, it was, like I was not on my phone that much. So,
Yeah.
and I'm the one that's running the show. So let us know what you guys like about your trips. What do you think about this noon to 3 thing? Do you think you should be taking the break and not fighting the crowds at that point? Let us know in the comments. Come out to Facebook and Instagram. Let us know there. It would be great to hear from you. So thanks for listening this week, and we will see you live this Thursday, 7:00.
Yeah. But like we always say, some live close,
But others don't.
so let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.